Today on the Game Marks podcast, we get raw when we play WWF Raw for the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Master Drive, 32X, and the Game Boy. Does a sequel to the Royal Rumble hold up, or will it also receive a double fuge? All of this plus a special two-part Clash at the Feast. Plug in and put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now.
And now, the Game Marks!
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast. My name is... What? See, alright, so in our notes, Johnny's got this fun little thing where it says, I'm Mr. Play It Forever, blah, 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 George Feast. But we all know it is I, your reigning, defending Clash at the Feast champion, Mr. Play It Forever himself, George Feast.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and this week we are playing WWF. Raw is War.
That was good. That was a good one.
That hurt.
And as always, we love to hear from you guys, so please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen, and join the conversation on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. Mr. Clash, the man they call Johnny Clash, how are you, and how are you feeling about last week's game?
I'm doing great, Mr. Man that only he calls Mr. Play It Forever. Last week we played Rock and Wrestle, and we both future endeavored this game, I guess, because, you know, it's just an old game. It doesn't really hold up. It lacked, but it also had a lot to it, and I caught myself thinking about this game way more than I should have throughout the past week, and not saying I regret my future endeavor, but maybe I should have given it, I don't know, maybe I should have played it a little more. Maybe I should have given it a little of a wider eye when I looked at it. I don't know. I can say this. I appreciate the game for all that it's worth, but I am sticking with future endeavor.
I'm still not loving it. I'm a hard sticking to that future endeavor. So, I have no regrets. But we are still doing our contest for the podcast intro. If you would like to submit your own variation, I guess we'll say, of the podcast intro, you can do that by emailing us at gamemarkspod@gmail.com. I mean, this past week, I don't know if you got a chance to scroll through the email and hear the last couple of ones that came through. It is, competition's getting pretty tough in there.
Yeah, so get yours in because pretty soon we're going to wind this down and we're going to start sifting through them and pick our winner. And we're going to start playing them as soon as, I'd say, maybe a week or two. But yeah, speaking of prizes, we have our contest is still going on where all you have to do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us that review on social media at GameMarksPod. Until November 1st, you can win a free WWE Steel Cage Challenge plug and play. And also, we still have our Alzheimer's awareness. I know October's next week. We're still supporting Alzheimer's Awareness Month, so get your shirt on our website at GameMarksPod.com. You could click on the little shop button, and it'll take you to our little store, and you could purchase a shirt, and all proceeds will go towards the Alzheimer's Association. Now, George, last year we did this little thing called Gameboree, and we raised a ton of money for...
Just a little thing.
Little thing. We raised a ton of money for St. Jude and a bunch of other charities and children's hospitals. And one of the tiers was a bonus episode on Ready to Rumble where we would watch it along with some friends. And we will just say this. That episode is going to drop this week. So look out for that.
Ooh-wee.
And it was quite the episode. But before we continue with this episode, we have to give a quick shout out to one of the greatest tag team champions of all time, and that is Road Warrior Animal, who unfortunately passed last week. So we just wanted to pay a little homage to him. I mean, listen, I've been in the locker room with this guy a couple times. They say don't meet your idols, but he's one of those guys you still get like starry-eyed when you see him, and he he wants to help like the current crop of talent. He wanted to like talk to people. He was just super cool to be around. If he was sitting there at his table, he was very approachable, very nice, kind guy. So you could see just from the reaction on social media how everyone felt about him.
Yeah, there's really no words to describe how many people just unbelievably inspirational guy. Every story that I've heard between people that I know that have either worked or met him, or you see tons of stories pouring out on social media of like interactions that people had. I mean, everyone just has unbelievably amazing things to say about him, and he will definitely be missed.
So I actually did Maryland Championship Wrestling, I would say maybe 2-3 years ago, and he was on the show as a signing. And I get out of the parking lot with my bag, and I'm walking into the building, and he's getting out of his car with his bag, walking into the building, full face paint. Like, this is the first time I saw him like in person as not a fan, like in the ring. This is the first time I saw him like next to me. He was the biggest guy. Like oh my God, like he towered over me. But just seeing him get out with that face paint was hilarious. Like, he really loved what he did. I want to run through the games that he was in, because we've covered most of them already, and there's some that we still have to cover. But so you don't realize throughout the years like how much influence the Road Warriors and the Legion of Doom actually had on video games. So starting on WCW World Championship Wrestling, they are on the cover. Then you jump to WWF WrestleFest, where they are the main part of the game. Like, once you beat the tag team mode, that's who you see, and that's who you're going to fight for the tag team titles. Then we have Super WrestleMania, Virtual Pro Fighter 64, Fire Pro Wrestling from 2001, Legends of Wrestling, which is actually a similar photo on the cover that was on World Championship Wrestling. Then there's Legends of Wrestling 2, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, Showdown Legends of Wrestling, SmackDown vs. Raw, that's the first one from 2004, Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, WWE Legends of WrestleMania, WWE All-Stars, WWE 12, the re-release of WrestleFest in 2012, WWE 13, and we haven't seen them in a WWE game since, but the Road Warriors are going to be in Retromania Wrestling coming out this year, and after talking to Mike Herman, we interviewed him about the game. Apparently, Animal had a lot to do with, like, they became friends during this process of creating the game, and Animal actually had a hand in it. As we know, he owned the right to the Road Warriors, so it made the process a little easier to get Hawk in the game as well. And Hawk appeared in New Japan Pro Wrestling 94 and 95 solo with no Animal, and also, we've seen how many ripoffs of the Road Warriors have we seen in these games?
Oh my God, like unbelievable!
Arcade or Japanese title.
Yeah, every game has some version of Animal or Hawk. It's their influence and their just overall. I don't know. I feel like we need a name. Yeah, I almost want to say like how you could say someone's toyetic. Like, we need a video game. Their counterpart to that.
Pixel bits.
Like, yeah, they're pixel bits. No, there's like they're such a cool looking, badass looking team that how would you not want to put them in some way, shape, or form in a video game? Like, how do you not want to use that as inspiration? Like, just two huge dudes with face paint that look like they could literally rip your head off. Like, it's awesome.
It's awesome. And like we said, huge influence to the video game world and the wrestling world. And listen, everyone knows the Road Warriors. They will be missed. They're together once again, riding their motorcycles. So, with that, what do you say we hit up some gaming news?
Let's do it.
Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at vgfgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style.
Microsoft has revealed the first non-standard Xbox Series X and Series S controller, which features a bold blue design resembling Sonic the Hedgehog. Previously, all Microsoft had revealed was an all-white and all-black version of the controller, but these won't be the only options at launch. There were also a blue controller that is entirely blue, but features white and black accents, in addition to robot white and carbon black. Microsoft has confirmed there will be 3 other color variants available. 2 of these haven't been released yet, but one of them, Shock Blue, can be seen on Amazon and Walmart, where pre-orders are available for $64.99. Now, speaking of Xbox, following the purchase of Bethesda, there have been a numbers of rumors regarding whether or not Xbox might purchase other publishers as well. The most prominent of these rumors has pointed to Sega. It's clear that Microsoft has been looking for ways to expand its Xbox first-party offerings, and Sega's name has recently been added to the mix for one reason or another. The rumor has been so prominent that Xbox even chimed in on the speculation with a reply tweet following the company's plan for Tokyo Game Show. So we will see at the Tokyo Game Show if Sega is a part of Xbox's new library. Now, speaking of Sega, Sega is officially developing a live-action movie adaptation of its best-selling Yakuza video game franchise with production company 1212 Entertainment and Wild Sheep Content. According to Variety, which first revealed the adaptation, Eric Barmack and Roberto Grande and Joshua Long will produce, but writers have not been yet added to the project. The video game series focuses largely on the story of Yakuza Kazuma Kiryu and the many characters and places he comes in contact with throughout the course of his duties. So we will see if the show follows suit, and that's all the gaming news we have this week. Check back next week.
Whoa. Gotta cut in right now, because there is a hot take on some news that just dropped a couple days ago, and it is circulating, and I am very excited about it, so I'm very sorry to cut you off, Johnny, but
This isn't your segment.
There is a rumor that there is a Metal Gear Solid full remake coming exclusively to the PlayStation 5. Now, this is very different from the Metal Gear Solid HD collection that released in 2011/2012. This is a full remastered version of the original first Metal Gear Solid game, and there is a rumor also circulating that if that game does well, there could be a re-release of 2, 3, and 4, also remastered for the PS5. As this news develops, we will be sure to let you know, but this was just too juicy of gossip to not cut in. I'm very sorry, Johnny. Back to the gaming news.
Well, I already said the gaming news is over, so let's, yeah, so...
All right, well...
So, we both got WWE 2K Battleground this week. There's a lot of back and forth on Twitter and online with, is this game good? Is this game not so good? Oh, there's too many microtransactions, blah, blah, blah. So, I would like to say my take, and then I would like you to say your take, so we could talk to our listeners and see their take. So, first of all...
We'll talk about first impressions?
Yeah, so my first impression of the game was... I agreed with someone on Twitter. It does look like a mobile game, but that does not bother me at all. If that bothers you, then you have bigger issues if a game looking like a mobile game defers you away from the game, because that has nothing to do with the gameplay. So I started with a one-on-one match, and I lost because it's a lot to handle at first. A lot of like power-ups. It reminded me largely of NHL Hits, and someone else referred to it as like NBA Jam, but wrestling. So take NHL Hits and combine it with WWE All-Stars, and you pretty much have WWE 2K Battlegrounds. I like the animations. I like how it's kind of presented, as Justin Leeper said, it's kind of presented as an action figure game. So when you're in the superstar mode and you're looking to unlock new superstars, they're actually in action figure, like little bubbles, and they're trying to like break out. I think that's a really cool animation. I think the Creator Wrestler, for what it is simple enough that it works. And the gameplay itself is fun. Like, I had so much fun playing through gauntlets and Royal Rumbles. I tried the King of the Battleground online, and I haven't had much success other than just hanging in the ring for a few minutes. I haven't had any eliminations yet, but it's very hard. What about you?
So here's my I guess somewhat controversial take on this is, I think the game is fun for what it is, but you have to be aware of what it is. This is not meant to be the next This is not 2K21. This is not meant to be the super realistic fighting game for the next year. This is something that's supposed to be an arcade style, super lighthearted, pick up, play a couple matches, put it down, and then it's not meant to where like it's a super in-depth storyline and a super in-depth create a wrestler mode, and there's like insanely branching storylines and this and that. Like, don't get me wrong, the story mode is cool. It has, not to spoil anything, but just to keep it as loose as possible, it has like a very comic-esque feel. Like there's a lot of art assets to appreciate in the story mode and in the game itself. I mean, if you are saying that you don't like the game because it's not super realistic, to me, you bought without doing your research. I heavily research a game from the people who got the promotional copies, who got the advanced copies, just to see what their initial intake is. Because, when 2K20 first came out, everyone who got the promotional copies and the access, the early access to the game said the game is broken. The game has bad animations. The game crashes a lot. And when it released, that's exactly what we saw. All of the precursor information that we got to Battlegrounds being released was that it plays like an arcade game. It's not super realistic. It's over the top. It's borderline cartoonish. And I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of people are saying it's the spiritual successor to All-Stars, which if you go back and you listen to our episode that we did on that, people said this exact same thing. Is that if you went into this game expecting that it was going to be hyper realistic, you're not going to like the game.
No,
and I think it's the same thing with Battlegrounds.
It had that WrestleMania arcade game feel to it, and that is one of my favorite games of all time. So I think I gravitated to that a little bit more, like just the silly animations. The one that stood out to me was kind of like Doink's animation in WrestleMania, the arcade game, how the Fiend I think Bailey did it too for some reason. I think a bunch of them have, like, they just pull out weapons. They pulled out, like, the hammer and hit you, and it just makes that, like squeak noise.
The goat battle is kind of fun.
Yes.
Which, if you haven't done that, taking control of the goat's kind of funny.
See, there's so much in this game. I even like the entrances, how you burst out of a box. The microtransaction thing, I honestly haven't encountered it yet, but if you want every superstar, then go ahead and buy them. But also, if you play through the campaign mode, if you play through every mode, just doing one Royal Rumble, you're getting money, like in-game bucks, to unlock whoever you want. So
here's
play the game.
Here's my feeling on microtransactions. Microtransactions are bad if the only way that you are able to unlock materials is by spending real money. That is the problem with a microtransaction. Battlegrounds counteracts that by saying, hey, if you want to spend $15-20 and just buy a bunch of our game currency and unlock everything, great, you can do that. But if you're someone who appreciates the grind of playing through and unlocking things as you progress through the game, I mean, that's, play any game for the PlayStation 1, from the console's birth to the end of the PlayStation 1. Like, that's how you unlocked most things. Like, you go back and you pick up the original Tekken or Tekken 3. How you unlock people in that game is you play through the story mode, you beat the big bad, and you unlock characters. That's how you do it in Battlegrounds. You play through the games, you play matches, whether it's, regardless of what you play, you always get some kind of in-game currency, and it's not a paywall where you have to use your own money. That's the downfall of microtransactions, where if the microtransactions and loot boxes is that you need to use real money to unlock game content. This has a built-in game currency where if you play the game, you unlock stuff.
Right, and I think that's perfectly fine. I already unlocked a ton of characters. You could unlock new attire for them, which I think is great. And the base roster is also pretty damn cool. Can't wait to see what DLC. I enjoy what they did with the cage matches. I think that's a lot of fun, how it's not a typical cage
that's
match.
A lot of fun. Grabbing the cash is funny.
Yeah, I would have liked to see maybe like a Money in the Bank or something else, a little silly.
You never know.
Yeah, we never know what's going to happen. But I went into this not too happy to play it because of what the other game was, and I was pleasantly surprised. I played it on stream with a bunch of you guys, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to playing it more and unlocking everyone. But I did encounter one hair glitch on Charlotte. I did a Royal Rumble with her where it kind of had the 2K20 thing going where the hair kind of stood in place. It only happened for like a second, and then it went back. I was like, whew, okay. And then I had one part where everyone exited the ring and we were all like getting weapons and stuff, and it just slowed down completely.
I mean, no game's perfect. They're still doing, I'm sure, as the game goes. The game is still very new, so I think there's only been like a patch to the game yet. So, I mean, as things roll out and the game develops and the game life continues, I mean, we got to be patient as gamers the same way that you would be patient with anything else. If there's hiccups or something like that, like these are people working on a game. Like, nobody's perfect. No game is perfect. You can put out flaws in any game that's ever came out. Most games have some kind of bug. As long as it's not a game-breaking bug or a glitch, like, it's okay.
It's okay. And I enjoy the game. I know a bunch of you enjoy the game. But also let us know what you think about it. So hit us up on social media.
Very excited. But with that, Johnny, what do you say that we jump into this week's question of the week?
All right, let's go. Game marks while you sit there, hopefully as uncomfortable as you possibly can be. I want you to listen to me. I want you to digest this because I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest. I don't hate you, Marks, but the Game Marks podcast have their own pro wrestling tee store. Brace yourself because the Game Marks podcast are now on Pro Wrestling Tees with original design to let everyone know if you will play it forever or a future endeavor. Head on over to prowrestlingtees.com/GameMarksPod and get your tees today. Hey Nick Stapp, how you doing?
All right, Johnny, before we jump into the question of the week, what was your last shirt that you got from our Pro Wrestling Tee store? Because I just got a brand new one that I've been waiting on getting for a while, and it came in the mail the other day, and I'm very excited about it.
From our store?
From our store.
See, I'm still partial to the Pro Wrestling NES style shirt. I really like that one.
I bought that one first, but the glitch shirt was there, and I was just like, you know what? I think that's going to be the next one. So now I've got the full collection of our shirts, and if you're going to get a shirt from Pro Wrestling Tee store, Johnny, what kind of shirt do you got to get?
You got to get this Ultra Soft. You got it. It stands
Soft.
up in the wash machine. It's worth the extra $3. I'm telling you, I just got a new Butcher and the Blade shirt, and it's going to last me forever.
Awesome. So, jumping into the question of the week, it is a weekly segment where we go back and forth and ask each other a question, and then we like to propose the question to you, where you can let us know your answer on any form of social media at GameMarksPod. Last week, Johnny's question was, if you could take the controller, plug it into a real-life situation, i.e. a big sports game or a UFC fight, would you trust yourself to do it? And what game or what event would you pick? And we had some great answers.
So, first off, I posted the terrible play to end the Super Bowl between Seattle and the Patriots, where they did not run the ball on the 1 yard line and they threw it and got picked off and the Patriots won. I think a lot of people were thinking of that, but personally, I would take control over the Giants when Deshaun Jackson ran that pick. I just thinking about it. I remember watching it. I was at the Paramount seeing, I think, Gaslight Anthem, and the whole place at the bar was just like, but we had some good answers. Ashes in the Snow says, I trust myself to win the gold in this game, and he sent Nagano Winter Olympics 98 for the PlayStation. All right.
I saw our friends over at Caught Looking Podcast sent in an answer.
Yeah, they said MLB The Show recreating the 2015 World Series, saying that they would win. As a Yankee fan, I appreciate that. I was all for the Mets that series, and I was pulling for them. And then
appreciate that.
GB Productions 84. So, they would take control over the Edge 1999, and they would lock Owen in a broom closet for the rest of the show. So
maybe don't put that in. Maybe don't put that one in.
Yeah, that one's creative. I'll give it the creativity. But what's your question for me?
But with that, we're going to jump into this week's question. It is my turn. And, okay, so I've been playing a few classics, and I was wondering...
Leisure Suit Larry?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think that we've talked about this specifically, but have you ever had a favorite video game soundtrack? Not a soundtrack like a WWE game where it's like you have like 3 Days Grace and like Limp Bizkit and all them. I'm talking about like all original music. Like an example would be like if you love Super Mario 64 and you love that soundtrack, like all of that music is original to that game. Do you have a game where you are just like, this is the greatest video game soundtrack ever, and it is constant, just nostalgia? You can put it on like a playlist and just listen to the whole thing front to back. So example, my answer, Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2. In my opinion,
I could still hear what those are.
Some of the greatest video game music in history. Like, can just put the playlist on YouTube and listen to both games front to back. No complaints. I love every track.
This is a hard one.
Mm-hmm. And it's different because you can't be like, oh, I love Millencolin and I love Goldfinger and all this stuff. So like Tony Hawk Pro Skater is the best. Like, no, it's got to be original soundtrack.
Does the Halo theme song count?
Well, the Halo song was made for Halo. So
I'm gonna go with that. That's a classic. Have you started the Halo yet?
So I started playing. Was it Reach? So the way that they put it in the Master Chief Collection is they don't go by how the games came out, like chronologically. They go by how the games go storyline. So I believe Reach is first, then it's Combat Evolved, then 2, then 3. So like Reach is like the prequel. So I played like the first 2 missions of Reach, and it's not bad. It's not bad. I definitely could see the appeal. I feel like so here's what I feel like is going to happen.
Guys, Halo, it's not bad.
Well, no. So here's my thing. I feel like the main point of Halo was the online play, and I want to make sure that I understand the game before I go for the online play. And also, the first like 2 missions of the game, like in Reach, to my knowledge, there's like none of the big characters in there. Like you're not even Master Chief. You're just like a random dude, and there's no like
digressing hard here. But also Halo 1 and 2, there was no online play for at least Halo 1, so you're wrong. But it's fine. I'm going with Halo and
Combat Evolved had online play.
The first one?
The first Halo with like Blood Gulch had online play.
And what was it? 1-on-1?
No, you played on Blood Gulch. I played it on the computer like 2 times.
When?
I don't know. I was in high school, like early 2000s. Halo 1 had online play. Combat Evolved had online play.
I'm looking this up.
How do I know more about a Halo game than you?
Because
leave all of this because when I'm right, it has to stay in.
You do not. All right. First of all, you do not know more about Halo than me, and just because you played it once in high school.
Multiplayer. Script speed mode. 2 players play cooperative with Halo's campaign. Oh, okay. So we're both right. Although Xbox version of Halo lacks official support for online multiplayer, the third-party packet tunneling software provides unofficial ways around this limitation. The Windows and Mac ports of Halo support online matches, so we're both right. The Xbox version didn't have online
the real
play,
version, yep.
but the Windows, it's Microsoft, it's Windows, it's the same thing. The Windows port did have it, so technically we're both right. But yes, for argument's sake, you were right. I was wrong.
Great, thank you. So I'm going with the Halo soundtrack. Let's go to the deep dive.
clip that and make sure that you save that forever. I was right. You were right. I was wrong.
Hey guys, Johnny here. While we love talking about video games and wrestling here on the podcast, we wanted to share with you a new offer from our friends at Stitcher. An enormous amount of shows and bonus episodes are available on Stitcher Premium, such as Office Ladies, Comedy Bang Bang, WTF with Mark Aaron, How Did This Get Made, Bitch Sesh, True Crime Garage, Marvel's Wolverine, and plenty more. Right now you could sign up for Stitcher Premium for only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year using our code GameMarksPodcast. That's all one word. Head on over to Stitcher.com/premium for this amazing deal and a free month. That's Stitcher.com/premium and use code GameMarksPodcast. That's all one word. Game on, Marks.
All right, so WWF Raw released November 28th, 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Sega Genesis, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, and the 32X, which was released a year later in 1995, published by Acclaim, developed by Sculptured Software and Real Time Associates. Now, this is the sequel to a game that we have already played, which is available in our archives, WWF Royal Rumble, that was released in 1993, and this is the final part of LJN's 16-bit WWF trilogy. Now, this game is actually compatible with the multi-tap, which takes your console and adds an additional 2 ports. So now, this 2-player game becomes a 4-player game, which would then make some of the extra game modes way more enjoyable. A game mode that immediately jumps out to me would be the Survivor Series.
Yep. So the difference between Raw and Royal Rumble, that there's differences between the characters now. They have their own signature moves and differing movesets altogether. I think to an extent, because we saw Yokozuna throw a pretty sick dropkick, the same as the 1-2-3 Kid with his skinny little legs. The game adds moves that haven't been seen in the game, like a DDT, a fallaway slam, and a bunch of suplexes. And additionally, wrestlers have different attributes like speed, strength, stamina, and weight. However, I didn't see that mostly on the character select screen. Their weight and their height and all that's there, but there's really nothing to tell you, like, there's no, like, star rating, there's no overall. You kind of just pick at your own will.
Well, that's the thing. If you hit the select button, it brings up their stats.
Okay, see, I didn't do
on the
that.
Character select menu.
You're right, George.
Ooh.
So, just like the Royal Rumble, there's a tug-of-war system when you grapple. So when you lock up, you're pretty much button mashing. It favors the person who initiates the lockup, obviously, because you're already pressing the button. It's pretty easy to break away from it if it's a computer player, but like me and George, somehow he had like a turbo finger going because I was pressing as hard as I could and he won every single one. So who the hell knows?
It's just it's the catchphrase, John. I don't want to have to say it, but you know what it is.
A real big douchebag.
That's
so
not the catchphrase.
With more energy, you can perform bigger moves with greater impact. Once an opponent's energy is low, you can perform a signature move. Some of them, like Shawn Michaels, it's not the super kick. I'm sorry. I love you. It's the teardrop. But Razor Ramon has a really nice Razor's Edge. There's a nice tombstone for the Undertaker. So the animations in this game are actually incredible. One thing that I did was I jumped into an exhibition game and I was against Owen Hart. I put the difficulty all the way up to 10. And as soon as the match started, bell rings and he just started spinning in a circle with his fists and kind of like what are those little tabletop spinners? you know he was like Sunshine from Ultimate Muscle, how he would rev up and just start spinning around the ring. So like I would get near him and he would just knock me down. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I just saw a video of it and it's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
I've never seen it before. I'm like actually in awe that they put this in this game.
A little crazy. Let's get into these game modes here. So we have one-on-one. You could do either a regular one-on-one with a pinfall, or you could do a brawl where you just eliminate your opponent's health. You have tag team. You have Survivor Series, where only one partner can appear on the apron at a time, but you can change partners on the outside via the select button. And once your player is out, a new player comes in. Now, our problem with this game, you pick a team of 4. The first person you pick is who you are throughout this game. So I was eliminated and my team was still in, and say it was Luna, she was still going without me. So now I'm just watching. So that's really boring. I do think it was a good concept back then to put the Survivor Series match in, just like the return of the Royal Rumble match. Now, you mentioned the multi-tap. I think that would have worked in the Survivor Series mode to maybe like have someone else control someone else on the team. That would have made it a little more interesting. But the Royal Rumble, you start with 2 wrestlers, but 6 wrestlers are in the ring at the same time. That's something you didn't really see back then because of the health bars on the top.
Yeah, and it's. I'm trying to think. Were they on top in the last game?
Yes. They weren't in the black bar, though. They were just kind of floating.
Yeah, I was just saying something definitely felt different about them. I just couldn't put my finger on it. But let's jump ahead a little bit because I want to ask you a very important question here. Did you notice the big difference in terms of the ring between Royal Rumble and this game?
They both kind of look similar to me. This actually had a very WrestleMania arcadey vibe to it. You could definitely tell that it was only a few years before. But no, so the Royal Rumble ring isn't branded as the Royal Rumble ring. In that game, it's WWF logo,
just the WWF logo. This is branded with the Raw logo, and the only thing that really stayed the same were the red, white, and blue ropes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a good catch.
But I thought that was like an interesting little detail, and the announcers changed.
Yeah, so we had King and Vince in this game. So actually, you get a really cool picture of the commentary at the match select screen. You select who you are, and then it jumps into like a behind-the-head view of Vince and Jerry the King Lawler with the two wrestlers who were selected on their monitors. I think this was pretty damn unique, and then a little catchphrase above it.
Took everything in my power to not make that the album artwork this week. I only want just like your face, my face in the monitors with the logo up top. It's the only thing I wanted to do, but we try to stay true to the cover art here. But oh man, that's such a good image.
Make it for the Twitter or the Instagram if you remember the passwords. So then we have a Bedlam match, which is...
You can't just move on after you say something like that. That's a deep wound.
We have a Bedlam match, which is a tornado tag match where you have to eliminate both members of the other team. It is complete chaos. And then there's a Raw Endurance match, which is a mixture of the Survivor Series match and the Bedlam match. So it's 4-on-4, but it's tornado tag. But choosing a partner is optional in this game mode, and you can go into a 6-on-1 handicap match, and the first team to eliminate all members wins the match. So that's a little something different.
Yeah. Now, we talked briefly about the finishers, but let's really touch upon the fact of how awesome these animations are, because if you take nothing else away from this, you got to appreciate the anime. You can absolutely hate the way that this game plays, but the animations, drop kicks look beautiful. The back and forth for the grapples looks really nice. So the moves look awesome. Clash did point out a couple of times that during some of the finishing moves, you were missing some signature details here and there of like taunts and stuff that would happen before moves. But for the most part,
that's all right.
The moves are pretty good. The tombstone looks like the tombstone. It even does where it's like both legs on one side. Mm-hmm. Like that old school tombstone pile driver, which was great.
It's very authentic.
Razor's Edge looks like the Razor's Edge. The sharpshooter looks like the sharpshooter. Even that teardrop back body drop suplex that Sean does is awesome. Like it just, everything looks really, really pretty, and you can tell that they put a lot of effort into making the sprites.
Yeah, and also there are different moves called Mega Moves, which are in every version other than the Game Boy and the Game Gear. So they're just greatly big, exaggerated moves like we mentioned with Owen. In most cases, they will knock the opponent out of the ring. So if this happens in a Royal Rumble, you're out. You execute these moves when using a combination of buttons. It's not just R like the finisher where you have to tap the R button. This is like a different combo. It might be like Y and X or A and B. Most of them are easy to avoid because they take like time to set up, which actually reminded me of the old Japan games. How it was like a little different animation with like Liger doing the Liger bomb and like the big like electric behind him, blah blah blah, all that. For example, Lex Luger and the Undertaker swing their arms in a circular motion before punching their opponent. So that's something you could easily just leave. Well,
I think my favorite may be so. I think in terms of the most ridiculous one, has to go to 1-2-3 Kid, because he gets on the top turnbuckle, he jumps from the right side turnbuckle to the left side turnbuckle to the right side turnbuckle, and then just drops an elbow.
That's it.
I don't know why that's it. Bam Bam's is ridiculous because he essentially just becomes a running, spiraling torpedo, like a perfect spiral football, except it's Bam Bam Bigelow, which is maybe the scariest sentence I've ever said in my entire life.
No, but these are also remnants of a year later when WrestleMania Arcade comes out.
That's true.
But do you want to get into these rosters? Because some of them are a little different.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to kick us off, or should I?
Yeah, so the Super Nintendo and the Genesis roster are the same, where they have Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Yokozuna, Bam Bam Bigelow, Razor Ramon, Lex Luger, Doink the Clown, Shawn Michaels, 1-2-3 Kid, Diesel, Owen Hart, Luna Vachon, and the 32X version featured Quang via a code. Now, if you go back and listen to our All-Stars episode where we had an interview with Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, he mentioned that he was pissed that his cousin had Quang in his version, but he did not. So the Game Gear is a little different, where it just has Bret Hart, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Razor, Bam Bam Bigelow, Yoko, Lex Luger, Diesel, and the exclusives, get this, Crush and the Macho Man Randy Savage, and I have a fun fact later on in the show about that. Now, the Game Boy roster, obviously it's a little small. We also usually don't talk much about the Game Boy games because we will cover them eventually. We have Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Yokozuna, Diesel, Doink the Clown, and Lex Luger.
I mean, if you're going to pick a roster having a video game, this is a pretty solid roster.
Oh, the cream of the crop.
It's awesome. This is an awesome roster. But with that, let's, we're talking about the roster here, but I mean, you see a lot of the roster on the artwork. So I think that it's time that we jump on over to this beautiful, beautiful artwork for this game.
Yeah, this is iconic here. I actually have this Sega cartridge still in my house. As you'll see, I'll post that on Instagram this week. We're looking at the Genesis cover, but they're all the same. I think the Genesis just kind of covers more surface area. It was a little bigger, so we could see it a little better. The Raw logo on the front looks just grungy, rugged. It looks raw. In the logo, we have The Undertaker, Yokozuna, Lex Luger, Razor Ramon, Bret Hart, Diesel, Luna, Owen Hart, and Doink the Clown kind of behind the Raw logo. Very good Photoshop job. Way better than the WWF Raw that comes out a couple years later for Xbox. It says wrestling's rudest and toughest, which I completely agree with. Now, you want to take us through the back cover?
Oh, absolutely. So, on the back cover, you have your little icons for every single wrestler. We see Bret Hart, Bam Bam Bigelow, 1-2-3 Kid, Diesel, Doink, Lex Luger, Luna Vachon, Owen Hart, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and Yokozuna. Then you have WWF Raw slams your senses with 24 megs of the most ruthless mayhem ever. The hottest WWF superstars, all new superhuman mega moves, and more in and out of the ring action stand between you and the championship belt. This is WWF Raw, and Raw is war.
Oh, he said it.
Now, you also have the classic of some beautiful little screenshots. You see all new mega moves, first 4-player WWF game, out of the ring mayhem, and new pins and submissions with true to life attribute levels.
Did you ever use the multi-tap for any of the consoles?
I did not. I think I'm like 99% sure that I had a family member who had the multi-tap.
Yeah.
But I never personally owned it.
I had a friend who had it for PlayStation 1, and we played like Warzone with it, and it made everything so much better. It was just cool to have. With that, I want to take you through kind of just the art style of the game. We already mentioned that the animations are pretty. These sprites are all they just personify who these wrestlers are. I do think they dropped the ball on Yokozuna and Bam Bam. They're just not as big as they should be. Yokozuna has chicken legs and he throws a dropkick. It's kind of weird. Bam Bam looked a little bigger than Yoko. However, Bam Bam's bodysuit looked really good. So I think if they just somehow made Yokozuna fatter, it would have looked a lot better. But you mentioned the ring. The ring is beautiful. The crowd is perfect. Unfortunately, we don't get entrances. I think we could have seen a type of WrestleFest entrance in this game, but I get it. They have to cram it all into a cartridge, so I understand.
Now, in addition to the animations and the artwork within the game, we also need to talk about that wonderful, wonderful chiptune music. Just the best. Chef Kiss. Mwah. Love it. I know you hated Lex's music because we heard it 900 times. Mm-hmm. But Oh man, that's a throwback.
Really good.
100% is an absolute throwback. I remember playing these games when I was a kid. Awesome music. Love it. But I was thinking, Johnny, that it may be time for us to go into that lovely little trivia segment we like to call Did You Know?
Did you know the Macho Man is a Guinness World Record holder for the longest absence in a WWE game? As acknowledged in the 2015 Gamers edition of the Guinness Book of World Records, Savage went 16 years and 4 months in between appearing in WWF Raw, this game, released in '94, and WWE All-Stars in 2011.
Did you know that the 32X version features Quang as a hidden wrestler? He does not have his own moves and instead uses Diesel and Bam Bam Bigelow's finisher and Doink's Mega Move.
The commentators on the 32X version alternate between Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler and Gorilla Monsoon and Stephanie Wyand. There are also alternating referees. This version also features extra moves and outside weapons.
Now, did you know that the SNES and Genesis cartridges on eBay go from 99 cents to $12 with a brand new SNES game sealed and packaged listed for $999?
Woo! Now, when we did our little visit to the video game trading post in Massapequa last year before the pandemic, I picked this up for the Sega, and I think I paid like $6 for it.
Yeah. Yep.
That and NHL 94 cost me maybe like $12 total.
But you know what? It's getting kind of late. I think it's time for us to sit back, relax, and do some ratings and reviews. What do you say, Johnny boy?
All right. So Famitsu gives the Mega Drive version a 19 out of 40. Next Generation gives the SNES a 3 out of 5 and the 32X a 2 out of 5. Electronic Gaming Monthly gives it a 5.75 out of 10. Quick Draw McGraw of GamePro gave the Mega Drive version a positive review, praising the selection of fighters, variation of moves, lack of slowdown, the sound effects, and many skill settings. He did, however, criticize the fact that all wrestlers are rendered at the same height. And even ones who have drastic height differences in real life. Now, that's true. Undertaker was the same size as the 1-2-3 Kid. Now, in regards to the SNES version, GamePro said that the controls are more precise and the graphics are more detailed than the Genesis and Mega Drive version. However, GamePro's Air Hendricks dismissed the 32X version, saying it is identical to the Genesis version, aside from some minor graphical improvements. And like we said, it has some like weapons and stuff. Now, Next Generation said about the SNES version, there are still many aspects of pro wrestling that none of the WWF games have yet to cover, so why not go after those? And as far as the 32X version, you're constantly required to hit as many buttons as fast as you can. All this does is give you hand cramps and blisters, and if that sounds like a good time to you, need to get some kind of social life, as we sit here with our blisters talking to each other, and this is our social life. The two sports reviewers for Electronic Gaming Monthly agreed and further criticized that the control is poor and the opponent's AI is overly hard to beat on all but the easiest difficulty settings. I 100% agree with that. I said to you during our Clash at the Feast that the AI for this game is really stupid. They get counted out. They get counted in during a tag match. They could be in the ring just for 10 seconds.
Yes.
I don't know. I agree with all of this, but I do still find the charm in this game.
Well, you know what? We talked about everyone else's ratings and reviews, and I think it is now time for the most important one, and that would be ours. I think it's time. What do you say, John? Think it's time to rate the game?
The game! It's all about the game.
All right. Johnny Clash, WWF Raw. Will you play it forever, future endeavor?
You're fired!
All right, so Royal Rumble, we both gave it a double fuge last year. We had hopes for this game, and I will say the roster, the slight little upgrades they made, the match types, I very much enjoyed playing this game. I do feel like the controls need to be something more, which I think they kind of did that when we got to the following year, when we got to WrestleMania, the arcade game. So I am going to say WWF Raw, play it forever.
Woo! All right.
And George, I ask you, my friend, will you play it forever or future endeavor?
I mean, I already knew what I was going to give this game before we played it, just because, I mean, if you couldn't already tell, this is a major, major nostalgia game for me, and throughout the entire time that we played this game, I just kept being like, oh man, I forgot about this, oh man, I forgot about this, like, and in full honesty, the Mega Moves totally slipped my mind until we saw it, and I was just like, oh my god, I forgot about this is awesome. So with that being said, I am also going to play this forever. I love this game. I think the animations are great, and yeah, it will go down as a favorite of mine for a long time. But I think it is now time, and I would like you to do the honors. Please take us through this week's Clash at the Feast.
Alright, so we couldn't do a Clash at the Feast last week because we played Rock and Wrestle, and 2-player was just impossible because it is a very old console. So let's just talk about the standings right now. Galactic Wrestling, George beat me. We all saw that bullshit on YouTube. Go check it out. We all saw the bullshit 2 weeks ago of UFC where Bas Rutten and Maurice Smith beat me as Chuck and Tito. So Rock and Wrestle we didn't play. Now this week we get to WWF Raw. Like always, which I think we're going to change this. The 2 exhibition games we played before we started rolling. I steamrolled George. Steamrolled him. We get to the actual match. I pick Undertaker, he picks Diesel, and he just picked me apart. Diesel won that one. So George, with that, won the month of September. But wait, there's more. We said we were doing 2, so we did a Survivor Series match after that. I guess George already won, so this was more for shits and gigs. I chose the team of Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Yokozuna, and Luna Vachon, and George chose Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, The Undertaker, and Bam Bam Bigelow. And once again, George is just really good at video games. For your winner this week, George Feast. By the way, the first match he won by running me into the turnbuckle and pinning me. So much excitement.
I mean, I guess there's really nothing else to say except for you to play my music, John.
Listen, there's 10 more months that I have to catch up, and I think we're gonna stop going in after we play a few. I think we're gonna go in cold each time from now on.
All right. Well, maybe everything becomes a best 2 out of 3 now.
Ooh, or that. I will say this game though. So there's, like you said, there was just a nostalgia kick with this game, and certain parts of it you're like, oh, I remember that. I think it's games like these that we both know well, that like we barely read the notes. We're just rolling here. Like we both,
oh yeah,
you could tell, I think, in our excitement level throughout an episode whether we're going to play it forever or future endeavor, and this was one of them.
I mean, there are also some games that we've covered in the past that were absolute gems that, I mean, I rely very hard on the notes, but I'm super excited because the game was great. So, like, there's a couple episodes from last year that definitely jump out that we didn't play, but the game was so awesome. I was like, how have I gone this long without playing it? But, yeah, to your point, you definitely know when it's a game that we had some experience with. But speaking of games that we have had experience with, so the next 2 episodes are very, very special because not only is next week episode 60, it is also my birthday episode.
Oh!
So with that,
I'll sing to you.
I would like to celebrate episode 60 by also making it another episode that we definitely owe you from last year's Gameboree. This is going to be the Game Drunks podcast. Next week, we will be drinking Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA. Available very, very easily. You can find it anywhere. It is a favorite beer of mine. The entire Dogfish Head series of their X-Minute IPA is great. It is chef's kiss. And next week, we are playing a sequel to a game that we played last year when we play SmackDown 2, Know Your Role.
Did you see my eyes just light up?
Yes, I did.
Oh, baby.
So here's the caveat to this. I am like 99% sure you are whooping me in this game because even when I had this game, I wasn't very good at it.
All right.
When this game was new, I wasn't good at it. So I'm not very confident in my ability to win next week.
Just give me Jeff Hardy and a wheel kick and I'm good.
I am very, very excited, and I'm pretty sure that you beat me in the last SmackDown game.
So next week's game is October 5th, correct?
Yes, and then the following episode after that
is my birthday, October 12th.
Your birthday episode.
Look
which
how that works
I will
out.
let you do the honors of picking the game. I am sure it's going to be either some kind of ridiculous WCW game that I am going to absolutely hate, or I'm assuming it's going to be the other ECW game. But we will leave that up to the end of next week. You have an entire week to decide. But I think with that, it is time for us to wrap up this week's episode. Johnny, what do you say?
All right, Georgie, take us home.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks podcast. Please check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store at prowrestlingtees.com/GameMarksPod. It is the best way besides listening to support the podcast, and be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. Leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to wherever great podcasts can be found. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. We're going to run through the list here. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Be safe. Get your beer for next week's episode because it's going to be awesome. And, is there anything else that you want to say before,
George, we're on a time schedule here.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's time for Johnny Boy to say goodbye.
Game over, Max.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.
You want to hear your voice echoing through the Game Marks arena every week during the intro to this show? Do you want to be the voice of the Game Marks podcast? Now is your chance. Get your best ring announcer voice and record your own voice clip saying, "And now, the Game Marks." And send to GameMarksPod@gmail.com for your chance to be in our new intro. Game on, Marks.